Hello everyone, welcome to your course, Introduction to Python and Data Science. My name is Michael Mustaine. I'm a data scientist that's going to take you through all 10 of these chapters. In this section, we're going to do an introduction to data science. I'm also going to line out some class expectations, what you should expect from learning from this course, what you should expect from me in terms of the structure and the general form of how this whole thing is going to work. And then I'm going to do a basic conceptual introduction to what data science is, and then show you a couple of real world examples of the kind of things I'm talking about. Okay, so in this class you're going to learn Python and data science. So basically the first half is hashed out for getting your Python skills up to par to at least begin to start doing basic data science work. So we're going to teach you from the ground up how to use a programming language called Python. It's one of the most used languages for data science. Actually, by now, it is probably the most used language for data science, followed very closely by a language called R. Later, once we get through all of your Python skills, I'm going to teach you some very basic statistical analysis skills like inferential statistics, how to do a linear regression, how to think about doing statistics, some core definitions like what an independent and dependent variable are, and then look at visualizing whatever statistical analysis we get you to do in Chapter 7. So you'll be learning how to use Python to do all of the analysis and all of the plotting. And then in chapters 8, 9, and 10, we're going to go into learning some really practical skills that you would use on a regular basis as a data scientist, where we're going to do some web scraping, so that's collecting information from websites in an automated way. This is a very common task that I've done for people, and I do for my own work and research on the regular. You're going to learn how to analyze text using something called natural language processing, which is almost like a form of machine learning, but linguists have been using this for quite some time. So it's almost like the automation and application of linguistic theory to large bodies of text. And that's important because linguists can't do a lot of text stuff, a lot of monotonous tasks very quickly, but a computer program can. So this is an area where coding has really sparked a revolution within a field. So we're going to learn some of the really basic tools that we do for some things like Twitter analysis, for example, where we could extract hypothetically some information, some text from tweets from different people, and then do some analysis of what is it, a happy or sad tweet or something like that. And then lastly, we are going to jump in a little bit to machine learning. I'm going to spend a little bit of time teaching, giving you explaining what machine learning is from a very high level, and then I'm going to guide you through a couple of machine learning algorithms that are generally simple, so you start to get an understanding of the process of machine learning, because there are many steps to it. It's not just doing the machine learning part. You have to think about how you train and test and all that kind of fun stuff that you'll learn about when we get there. Okay, so that's what you should expect to learn by the end of this class. What I'm going to be expecting from you guys is that at the end of every chapter, we have a problem section where you're going to apply all of the knowledge that you've learned from the lectures and theory sections. Usually the chapter problems are getting increasingly more difficult over time. So prepare and make sure that, and a lot of them are based off of prior learning, so you'd have to know things from chapter 4, 3, and 2 in order to do the problem for chapter 5, usually. And then you will also have 3 projects, which are going to be very similar to the chapter problems. However, they're different in that I'm not giving you as much guidance. Essentially, you're going to download a data set from a popular website where data scientists, analyze open access data as a way to hone their skills. So we're going to use a website called Kaggle for that. And then what else you should expect is from each of the theory sections, from each of these lectures, basically starting from now onwards, is that you're going to have a what you'll learn section, a definitions section, a syntax section, a coding example section, and a recap section. So I'll have a very similar slide to the one above every time, and if there's any new concepts that you are expected to learn from that section, I'm going to take some time to just like explain what each of these words mean. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of how all of this works in Python, but I'm going to start from a very static image, and I'm going to draw, like basically I'm going to show you some code, and I'm going to draw on that code exactly what's going on line by line, step by step. Okay, and then once we have gone through that syntax section, I'm going to run the code and show you line by line how it's working and how you should see it working. Okay. And then at the end of it all, we're just going to do like a really quick 30-second recap so we're all on the same page as to what we've learned. My real intent in this class is to try and focus on teaching you where to find answers and how to find answers rather than kind of waiting for me to give you the answers. In general, I taught myself how to code. And the only way I was able to do that was by learning where the resources are. So the real trick to becoming a coder, guys, is not that you have to be that smart. You have to be persistent, but you also have to be able to search for your own answers a lot of times, because no one's going to do it for you when you're out there in the wild. And that's the most valuable lesson that I hope you would take from this class. Okay, so with that, let's move into some actual information now. So what is data science? Data science is a new field. It's kind of a buzzword in some ways, although it's becoming more and more established. And the way I see data science is it's kind of the knowledge and application of a bunch of different types of statistical analyses that exist out there that we can use in automated ways. So it's like a bunch of different approaches to trying to answer problems with large amounts of data. If you have so much data that you can't possibly comb through it by hand, how do you sort through that chaos? How do you analyze and find meaning from all of that information when there's so much noise? And that's really the core of data science in many ways. It's being familiar with all the different ways that you can analyze and process data. And it's called a science as well, because a lot of times you have to use experimental design or have a research background in order to really do this in a fine-tuned way. You need to have an understanding of reliability and validity, and you need to be able to think of, am I accessing and processing this data in ways that isn't going to hinder an hypothesis that I have or a goal that I'm trying to reach. So that's where creating meaningful metrics from ambiguous data comes in, because you need to be able to sift through all this information and find the things that make the most sense and actually do represent the things that you are looking for in your analysis. Lastly, a lot of data science is also visualizing results. So you've done all this processing, you got all these cool numbers, you now have to make something pretty from that. And the reason for that is because not everyone is a data scientist. That's your job. So in order to explain what you find, you have to draw pictures sometimes. And we draw pictures in a coded way. We draw pictures in a scientific way, where it's very similar to the plot in a academic journal or article. So that's kind of what I would describe data science as a very high level. Here are a couple of specializations of data science, like where we see data science doing very well in. So vision stuff, so we have like face recognition, object recognition, anything around that is a really dominant area of data science. You can become a vision expert in data science, where you've learned how to take an image or a video and process that video or image down into something that a machine learning model can read and teach it how to understand the difference between sets of images, or to process or to remove aspects of an image. You can teach, you can use data science in order to do all of these kind of things. We also use machine learning for voice recognition. So when we teach, when we want to like have something recognize a person's voice or recognize what I'm actually saying for some sort of speech-to-text analysis, we use data science techniques in order to create and build those. We use machine learning where we pass in audio information and segment it and teach our algorithms the differences between words so that hopefully they become good at hearing the differences between vowels or words. Machine learning is used a lot right now in the health and medical field. There are a lot of amazing companies out there right now that are using image recognition to find cancerous tumors, sometimes, and other things, sometimes better than doctors themselves. So there's a lot of potential for health and medical fields to benefit and use data science that around the world that are only starting to do that now. I've also seen work where machine learning algorithms are processing medical records to try and find patterns between diseases or, where someone is high risk or low risk, or when some medical professional needs to follow up with a patient. It can all be done through just like scanning a doctor's written text or from, typed in already and doing that analysis. Machine learning is also going wild within business and financial analysis. Stock markets use machine learning quite a bit. Cryptocurrencies are really hot with machine learning as well right now. And there are so many different business analytics applications for machine learning that, if you want to become a data scientist to do that kind of stuff, it's a really hot item. So consider that. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is just text, natural language processing, where we've already basically mentioned this. So you have, linguists, and we are now able to do all this cool stuff, and we can get, automated chatbots to talk to us almost like we're regular humans and do a really good job. If you've ever used a chatbot for a company's service, it's quite amazing. So, so what kind of skills do data scientists need? These are very quick. Usually data scientists use Python, R, or JavaScript, or a combination of the two. I use Python and R quite a bit. Python's my favorite though, and you're going to find that actually in terms of the most used languages for data science, it's first Python, then R, then JavaScript. It used to be R, then Python, but Python's growing really, really quickly, and it has been for a little bit. So it's kind of finally taken over as the top data science language. We also use a lot of statistics, and the statistics come from everywhere. From traditional statistical analysis, which is called frequentist or inferential statistics. That's where you get things like t-tests and ANOVAs, if any of these words are familiar to you. There's also the alternative approach, which is sometimes called Bayesian statistics, or at least it's hard to call it Bayesian statistics necessarily because it's been used in many other areas. It just hasn't been used very often until the dawn of dawn of computers. It's become a lot more useful since then. And then we use a lot of this thing called machine learning, which we'll spend a lot of time talking about in chapter 10. We also spend a lot of time managing and organizing and cleaning data. We have, let's say, 1 million data points, and guess what? The reality is, most data is messy. So we have to find ways to clean it. We have to chunk it down into a small enough size that we can, access and run our statistical packages or whatever we want to do. But sometimes that means we have to go and find information. So a lot of times I have to spend a lot of work on going to websites and creating scripts that are going to take information from a website so I can do my analysis. When I work with companies that have large databases, you have to learn how to do database management, which is learning about SQL or Visual Basic Plus or any of these kind of things. So learning how to deal with databases is another part of data science that we're not going to talk about too much in these lectures. But if you learn this stuff with Python, it won't be a stretch to learn how to access databases. And maybe that can be a future topic we go into. We do a lot of automation. So once we have our data, we have to do a lot of cleaning or adjusting. So we build programmatic logic for complex tasks, meaning We have a lot of information, and we parse and pick the things that we need, and that can a lot of times be kind of complex in terms of logic. Lastly, one of the skills that is not really shared a lot with in these classes is that in order to be a good data scientist, you have to be able to communicate data science well to people who know nothing about data science. I mean, the reason it's your job to do that. If you're a data scientist, you need to be able to explain to people that aren't data scientists what you're doing and why it's important and why it's valuable. So it's a skill that's often overlooked, but it's something that you should be refining. And I hope that my language and the way that I approach these problems is a good gateway for you to try and think about communicating these complex ideas in simple ways to people. All right, everyone, so we're going to call it there. In this class, we did a bit of an introduction to what data science is. I talked about what your expectations should be for each of these sections and chapters, and we went over some skills and tools that data scientists often use, just like introducing some language and words to you so we can now go forward. So thank you very much, and see you next time.